Welcome to the Shred Method Masterclass. My name is Adam Carroll, the founder of this program. I'll share more about myself and my story in a bit. But before I do, let me ask you a question that will set the stage for what you're about to learn. If I told you that you could have no mortgage payment in 3 to 5 years and never have to change your lifestyle, would you be interested? I've posed this question to thousands of people and I always get the same answers. Absolutely. They'll ask, how is this possible? And some people will say, it sounds too good to be true. Well, over the next several minutes, I'll share the exact strategy that we've taught countless people to blast away their debt in record time, reducing their financial stresses and ultimately saving tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and allowing them to build real wealth much faster. Before jumping in, I'd like to share with you why this program exists. I've seen too many people close to me struggle financially, operating under conventional wisdom. And no matter how much or how little you make, if you don't have a plan and the accountability to make financial security and freedom a certainty, then you'll always be uncertain. One look at the statistics about retirement savings today, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Far too many people get to the age they'd like to no longer work, and yet still have to, just to make sure they outlive their money. It's an outdated model, and I'm about to show you the way we could and should be living. And this is the kicker. It requires one simple shift in how you handle your cash flow to go from uncertainty to certainty. I'm going to make a bold statement. Nearly everyone could live mortgage-free in just a few years, slashing 25 years or more off your mortgage, but it's not necessarily just to be debt-free. There's a strategy. Now, if you're someone who's a believer in leveraging OPM, other people's money, and you'd never pay off your mortgage, keep watching. You're likely someone that makes good money. You put away some in investments, but deep down, you know there's likely a faster way of achieving the level of financial freedom you're after. Well, there is. Most people don't have an income problem. They have a cash problem, meaning your income is sufficient to live the lifestyle you're currently living, but there's not enough cash or liquidity to do what you need to do to get ahead. And we're about to change that. As I said, my name is Adam Carroll. I started out in life not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, and I was often taken advantage of by the financial system through some fault of my own. I graduated with tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt and over $8,000 in credit card debt. Today, I'm a financial educator with 4 Amazon best-selling books, 2 TED Talks, one with over 6 million views on the TED.com website, and the creator of a documentary on student loan debt called Broke, Busted, and Disgusted that aired on CNBC. I've paid my house off twice in the past 7 years, which may have you asking, why would you do that? But I'll share that with you later. And I've taught thousands of people how to make one fundamental shift in their finances to unlock newfound security and opportunity. In 2010, I closed the mortgage company that I'd run for nearly 5 years. Our young family had outgrown the starter home we'd lived in, and we had bought our forever home. Just one small problem. The underwriters couldn't verify my income, and they wouldn't close on the loan. We had already moved in prior to closing, and we were renting back from the owners. And I vividly remember my wife and I lying in bed and her crying because she was afraid we'd have to move out. Her dad graciously agreed to co-sign on the note with her, and we finally closed, but my name wasn't on the loan. I swore I would never be in this situation again, and then 1 year later, I discovered this method. We were able to refinance the loan into both of our names, and 3.5 years later, we had the mortgage paid off, not on crazy income and without altering our lifestyle. Now, 2 things occurred to me. One, the combined power of not having a mortgage payment and the equity available in my home was the ultimate leverage for financial freedom. And number 2, that anyone could do this, anyone, with the right education, the right motivation, and the right discipline. So over the next few years, I started sharing the Shred Method on podcasts and at speaking engagements, and the people came pouring in. As proof of this, Romania found the Shred Method after listening to a podcast I was on. Romania is a nurse who was working overtime shifts just to get ahead financially. She knew there had to be a more efficient way to create freedom and was looking and listening for ways to do just that. After jumping in with both feet, Romania paid off her home in just shy of 2 years and used the additional income and equity to begin funding her own bank to invest from. Conservatively speaking, Romy has accelerated her retirement plan by at least 10 to 15 years. Molly and Lance live in a resort area of Florida and were living the dink life, dual income, no kids. Their $350,000 townhome was a block and a half from the beach, and they loved everything about it except the payment. What these two really wanted was to be able to travel, to invest freely, and to build passive income. Within 4 years, they had paid the townhome off entirely, and they rented it to a long-term renter who was paying well over $30,000 a year to live there. They found their dream home just a couple miles away and bought it, with the mortgage payment largely covered by the rental income. They're shredding that mortgage as well and will own outright over $1.5 million in real estate within the next 3 to 4 years. Even more impressive is what they can do with the equity in their properties to continue building their wealth. All of this is shared in the shred method. Another successful shredder is Amanda. She's been an incredible advocate for the shred method after saving over $120,000 in interest in just the first 6 months. Amanda is a real estate investor who's using the equity she's building in her property to help purchase cash flow producing real estate, which allows her to shred even faster. Or JJ. JJ's a successful business owner who was doing everything by the book. He had his primary home, a cabin at the lake, car loans on all 4 family vehicles, and more sinking funds or savings accounts than you could shake a stick at. He had one for everything you can imagine, each one getting a little every month. And the interest he was paying on all the debts was eating up a chunk of his income. After learning the shred method, he changed just one subtle thing every time he was paid, and it resulted in him knocking every debt out in just over 3 years. His total interest saved was well over $900,000. And recently, he bought a farm just for fun. My story and at least one of the shredders I just shared likely all have something in common with your situation. The difference is they got access to the right information, and now I'm going to share it with you. You've probably got 100 people telling you what to do with your money, and I don't intend to be just one more. I would ask you, don't mind the gurus. Instead, mind the math. Let me start by telling you that your combined income holds the key to the shred method working for you. Your income ideally has 4 jobs. It should pay your expenses, it should eliminate debt, it should build wealth, and you should be able to have fun and or do good with it. For most people, it does just the first and the last. They pay expenses and they have fun. And we wonder why the majority of consumers are ill prepared for retirement. It's the 2 bullets that most people overlook: eliminating debt and building wealth, that are the secret keys to unlocking your financial freedom. When you consider that the 2 greatest expenses in your life that you will ever have are taxes and the interest expense on debt, it's essential that you understand how to minimize one or ideally both of these. When you do so simultaneously, it propels you towards financial freedom. Eliminating taxes, that's its own animal. So we'll focus on minimizing interest, or as I like to say, how to play the bank's game and win. The truth of our relationship and our reliance on banks is found in the truth in lending disclosure that you likely signed when you closed on your mortgage. So let's suppose you purchased a $300,000 home with 10% down. Your mortgage would be $270,000, and let's assume an interest rate of 6.5%. The payment on that loan would be $1,706, not including taxes and insurance. And I want you just to take a guess at how much of that payment goes to interest in month 1. Do you have a number in mind? Of the $1,706.58, how much of that would go to interest in the first month of your mortgage? The answer is the interest in month 1 is $1,462.50. That means of your payment, only $244 is going to pay down the $270,000 balance. And this is why most people have so little equity in their homes when they go to sell it in 3 to 5 years. Now, according to the Truth in Lending disclosure, this is where all the math is actually calculated. The total amount of interest you'd pay If you were to pay off the $270,000 financed over 30 years' time and make just the minimum monthly payment every single month, the amount of interest you'd pay is $344,370 or 127.5% of the purchase price just in interest. It doesn't really leave a lot for eliminating debt and building wealth. So let's change that. Remember how I said just one minor adjustment has made all the difference to our Shred users? Well, here's what most people do. They get their paycheck and they deposit it straight into checking and then proceed to draw down the balance of the account through debit card swipes, ATM withdrawals, and bill pay. They pay the mortgage, the car loan payment, other debt payments, and living expenses. If there's anything left over, the gurus tell us it should go to savings and investments. But in reality, for most people, most of it goes to Costco, Target, and dining out. There's a common idea today that if there's money left in checking, then we're good to go shopping. But this whole model is extremely inefficient if creating security, freedom, and building wealth are your goals. What shredders do in that one seemingly insignificant adjustment is their income is deposited into an LOC, a line of credit, typically a home equity line of credit, but it could be a business line of credit, a personal line of credit, or even a special Shred savings account. In this example, let's suppose it's being deposited into a home equity line of credit or a HELOC. Out of the HELOC, all of the bills are paid just as normal. The monthly mortgage payment, the car loan, debt payments, and living expenses. Even going out to eat is paid through that account in a way. But any extra that is in that account will go to knock out your debts in a very specific order, all determined and told to you by the Shred Method software. Ultimately, all shredders will begin knocking out their mortgage balance, again, for a very specific reason to be shared later. Before I go any further, I do want to make sure I share who this is not for. There's a saying that you can't borrow your way out of a spending problem. Therefore, this isn't for people who are prone to overspend their income. It's not for someone looking for a silver bullet to solve your debt problems. It's not for someone who thinks they're clever by playing the credit card balance transfer game. The debt is still debt. My recommendation, if you fall into any of these categories, is you seek a financial coach that can help you alter your spending behaviors and then circle back to the Shred Method. Who this is for are people who have consistent income, people who have discretionary money every month that they'd like to get the most efficient use of, people who can follow software prompts and are eager to build financial freedom sooner rather than later. Our typical Shred member is a family making roughly over 6 figures a year. They're current homeowners. They have a desire for financial freedom, and they have the discipline to make it happen. At the beginning of this masterclass, I mentioned that most people could have their mortgage paid off in 3 to 5 years, slashing 25 to 27 years off your mortgage. On this slide, the yellow waterfall you see represents the mortgage payoff process. In a 30-year fixed mortgage, you'll have paid off half of your loan balance in year 21. I want to say that again. In a 30-year fixed mortgage, you'll have paid off half of your loan in year 21. That means for 21 years, you've paid a massive chunk of interest. And the last 9 years of your mortgage are when the principal pay down really happens quickly. So when the average time in a home is only 5.5 years, most homeowners will sell that property with little to no equity, especially if they've refinanced the mortgage at all in those 5 years. Imagine 5 years in, you go to sell your home and you own it free and clear, and being able to put that amount down on the next property. So if you're someone who managed to lock in a 3 or a 4% mortgage, congratulations. But just know that you're still paying a major chunk of your payment to interest if you're in the first 1 to 7 years of repayment. Those tend to be the best years to engage in the Shred Method. With the Shred Method, instead of a waterfall, we're going to show you how to make it look like a slide, ultimately saving tens and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest, building wealth, your net worth, that much faster. So here come the numbers. For those of you who are saying, how does the math actually work? I'm going to give it to you straight. From the example I gave you above, if you put 10% down on a $300,000 home, you'd owe $270K on a 30-year mortgage at 6.5%. What you're seeing is the first 36 months of an amortization table for that loan. And you can see that the payment is $1,706 with $244 going to principal and the rest going to interest in month one. Now, if you made 3 years worth of payments to this mortgage, you will have paid in $61,436. Out of that, the principal paid down would be $96.73, and the interest paid in would be $51,764. And this is why your banker will never show you the shred method. But what if you put a one-time $5,000 lump sum payment towards the mortgage before the second payment? I'm going to show you what happens when we do that. And again, why your banker will likely never tell you about this. The interest charged on your mortgage is based on the balance at the end of the preceding month. So on the very first payment, the interest charged on $270,000 at 6.5% is $270K times 0.065 divided by 12 equals $1,462.50, reflected by letter A. If you made one lump sum payment of $5,000 to your mortgage, the balance would then be $265,000. And the interest charged on that, using the exact same math, would be $1,435.42, but you wouldn't get there until around payment 21. But to get to payment 21, it would require you to make 20 to 21 payments of $1,706, a total of $35,838, of which only $47.56 would be principal. That means by putting $5K in your mortgage right away, you'll save almost $30,000 or more in interest, and you'll advance your amortization table by a year and a half. Keep in mind, that could be on your very first payment. Now, if you're tracking, that one $5,000 lump sum payment is coming from your HELOC. And you may be wondering, but what if my HELOC rate is higher than my mortgage rate? Aren't I just paying down low rate debt with a higher rate debt? Well, it's a solid question, but you're thinking like a consumer, not like a banker. You see, there are 3 factors to consider when you're looking at debts: the interest rate, the balance on the loan, and the speed at which you're paying it down or paying it off. Remember that 5% of the $5,000 that I mentioned, it might be at 7%, but it's only $5,000 compared to $270,000. And we're only borrowing it for a short term, like literally just a few months. So if you borrowed the 5K for 4 months, then your interest holding cost would be $115. And yet you saved over $30,000. That's what they call a no-brainer. What the shred method does is it turns every $100 you plug in to the system, turns it into potential to save thousands and thousands of dollars. And when you do it consistently for a period of time, call that a year or 2 years or 5 years, the tens or hundreds of thousands you'll save becomes very real money. This is real money that helps you achieve financial freedom far faster than you would lining the profit column of your mortgage lender. Just to reiterate, one lump sum of $5,000 would save you $30,000 in interest you would have otherwise paid. Again, what the shred method does, it turns every $100 into the potential to save thousands of dollars, becoming very real money for your own net worth and wealth building ability. A common question that we often get is, how much do I need on the line of credit? And if you've put any money down when you bought your home, or your home is appreciated significantly, then you likely have enough in equity to get a HELOC. Even 5 to 10K is plenty to get started. In fact, if you have that in a side account and you haven't touched it in months or years, that would be enough to get you started in this process. You see, the equity turns into a HELOC. And this is a critical piece. You may be wondering, well, if I have extra money, why wouldn't I just send it to the mortgage company and bypass the HELOC? You could do that, but ultimately you won't pay down the mortgage as fast. You won't save as much in interest, and you'll have no access to the equity in your home if you don't have a line of credit attached to it. You see, the HELOC is essentially a liquidity tool. And the more equity you have in your home, the more liquidity you have access to should you need it. That's a component of the shred method you'll learn in the course. The HELOC functions like a two-way street. Money comes in and money goes out. Your mortgage, on the other hand, is a one-way street. Money only goes in and it will only come out if you do a cash out refinance or you sell your property. Now, as your mortgage gets paid down, the size of your HELOC goes up. And this is beneficial because at some point, you may decide that you are going to request a recast of your mortgage, keeping a low fixed rate and minimizing your monthly payment. This is exactly what I've done time and time again and taught hundreds of shred users how to do. Here's what happened for my wife and I. In just 3.5 years, all of our financial anxiety was gone. My wife, who is extremely focused on financial safety and security, no longer worried about any of the bills. And here's why. Large or small, even when you pay off the mortgage, you still have that line of credit and all of that equity available to you in case you need it. So large or small bills popped up, we covered them no problem. And we were still participating fully in her 401k and fully funding our Roths every single year. On top of that, we were taking amazing vacations. We were investing in other investments we previously weren't able to invest in. In essence, our finances were largely on autopilot within 3.5 years. What I want for you is to know that you'll be okay no matter what. They say that hope is the feeling you've got, that the feeling you've got isn't permanent. You may be feeling that about your money right now. And this program, when done for even a short amount of time, can radically change your financial picture, your idea of what's possible, and even the ability to retire with greater wealth. Whether you do the shred method for 12 months or 24 months or for the rest of your life, for me, this is a lifestyle. It is a mindset. And I will never go back to the way that I handled cash before, because nothing has been greater at building wealth than leveraging this method. The shred method itself is a course. It is a community. It is a software that guides your weekly cash flow to its highest efficiency. But ultimately, it's about behavior modification around one subtle change. The shred method software is based on a complex algorithm that does all the math for us. And the reason we call this a behavior modification tool is day by day, week by week, the shred method software tells you exactly what to send and where to get the maximum benefit from the dollars that you're making. I need to share again, this isn't for everyone. First and foremost, you must have discretionary income at the end of your month. You cannot have more month at the end of your money. You must have more money at the end of your month. Secondly, you need a certain level of discipline and the ability to listen to and act on what the software is telling you to do, and or take coaching from our shred method coaches. And last, you'll need to have either equity in your home that you can obtain a HELOC, or have a side account with a minimum of 5 to 10K in liquid reserves to get started. So at the very beginning of the webinar, I asked you the question: if I told you you could have no mortgage payment in 3 to 5 years and never have to change your current lifestyle, would you be interested? Well, if you answered yes, and you're ready to get started, go to theshredmethod.com/register. And when you go to theshredmethod.com/register, you'll see this checkout page. Like you probably are, we're cautious about investing our hard-earned dollars in programs that require an upfront investment. But here's my bold guarantee. If you follow the program, and I mean really follow the program, you'll save at least 5 times the amount invested in the program within the first 6 months, or I'll refund your investment. For many people, it happens far faster than that. You could be like Amanda. She avoided $88,000 in interest on her property in the first 2 months. She's living proof that the model works, and was excited enough that she's posting about it regularly on Instagram. Or you could be like Kathy and Brian, who have knocked their mortgage down $70,000 in just over a year. They blasted away a truck payment in months, and they're now on track to have all of their debts paid off within 6.5 years, and the ability to retire 10 years earlier than they would have otherwise on far less income needs. Or you could be like the hundreds of users who have debt reduction schedules in the Shred method that have them debt-free in 5 to 7 years or less. When you go to the shredmethod.com/register, you'll get started right away. When you register, you'll sign up for a time with one of our coaches to walk through your program, get you established, get you set up, and make sure the system is running optimally for you. You'll get immediate access to the course, immediate access to the community, and immediate access to the backlog of all the educational events we've done through the past several years. In addition, access to all the calls that happen on a monthly basis where we educate you, not only on how the Shred method works and can build wealth, but all of the other ways to build wealth in addition. If you're on the fence, I'd like to ask you a question. What will change your financial situation if nothing changes? And maybe more importantly, maybe most importantly, what will you do with all of the extra money? What will you do with all the extra money when your debts and your mortgages are completely paid off in the next, think about this, 3 to 7 years? Having no debt payments for decades and owning nearly all of your income? Will you take better vacations? Will you be able to cash flow the cost of college for your kids? Will you be able to pay cash for your next vehicle? This is all possible when using the Shred method for a very short amount of time. These are just some of the folks who have joined the Shred method in the past several weeks. And my question to you is, will you join us, all of the other shredders, in creating massive freedom and flexibility for you and your family? These folks, having gone through the Masterclass, decided to take a bold step towards their financial future, joined us, and started paying off debt immediately. So head to the shredmethod.com/register to get started. I'd like to answer just a few quick frequently asked questions before we end the Masterclass. First and foremost, I get the question a lot, won't I lose some of my mortgage interest deduction? In 2017, the tax code changed, and now a couple can take up to $25,900 as a standard deduction. So unless you're paying well over that in interest every single year, you really already are getting the maximum deduction you can. Now, if you're itemizing, if your loan amount is far greater and the interest expense is greater than $25,900, or you have other expenses you're itemizing, then consult with your tax professional. The next question is, will this impact my property taxes or insurance? The answer here is definitely not on property taxes. The county you live in will get what they get every year, no matter what. On insurance, you may receive a discount once you own your home free and clear, but you'll want to check with your agent on that one. If you escrow your payments to taxes and insurance, that will continue just like normal. Another frequently asked question is, why not just put money directly into your mortgage? And the answer here, very candidly, is you could, but you will feel strapped all the time because there is no liquidity without the HELOC. Remember, your mortgage is a one-way street. Money goes in, it doesn't come back out again. Where a HELOC is a two-way street. Money comes in and money goes out. The Shred method is still about living your life. It's enjoying meals and travel. Users who've tried the beans and rice plan felt depleted after 18 to 24 months, and they just give up, mainly because it just feels so restrictive. Not so when using the Shred method. Another question you may be thinking is, $997 seems steep. Is it worth it? And I'd like to ask, if the upfront investment for registering our course, community, and coaching seems too high, when was the last time you took a look at your amortization schedule for your mortgage? Likely, the answer is never. Or just a glance at the most recent mortgage statement. They tell you how much goes to principal and how much goes to interest, but we've been conditioned to say, yeah, but at least I can write it off. And as stated before, the tax code changed 5 years ago. And for most people, it made that statement irrelevant. Some people may be saying, yeah, but my rate's 3%. Why would I pay off such cheap money? When using the Shred method, we have seen shredders who have a 3% mortgage rate take their effective APR down to 0.4%. That is the cheapest money you'll ever get. Listen, I've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in personal development, coaching, and business improvement courses and seminars. This investment is the lowest dollar to highest return of anything I've ever done. And I can honestly say nothing has allowed me and my family to accelerate wealth building as much as this, as well as feel completely at peace with my family's financial future. And as I said, I wish the same for you. The last question that we often get is, why can't I just do this myself? And for all those do-it-yourselfers out there, here's my answer. It's a fair question. And honestly, you may be able to, but I'd ask you in return, why haven't you? Most people candidly just lack the discipline to make the lump sum payments, or they question how much and when, and then they just revert back to old habits because it's just too easy to fall back into living in a banker's business model. We're conditioned to live in that banker's business model. And the Shred method is an amazing behavior modification tool supported by the software, supported by the community, and supported by the coaches. Listen, anyone can build their own home from bare ground too, but few do. They usually hire a professional to help them, and this is no different. I'm going to leave the registration link up again, theshredmethod.com/register if you're ready to get started. And I want to leave you with one final thought. The reason we exist, our why, is very strong. At the Shred Method, we exist to help families and individuals create freedom in their lives. And we are absolutely 100% motivated to do exactly that on a day-by-day basis with all of our shredders. We are committed to your success as much as we're committed to the success of the program in general. So I encourage you, if you're at all intrigued, if you've liked what you've learned on the masterclass, go to theshredmethod.com/register. And remember, there's a bold guarantee. Follow the system. And if you don't save at least 5 times the investments in the first 6 months, we'll gladly refund your money. Join us, won't you, at theshredmethod.com/register. Thanks for joining me on the masterclass, and I'll see you on the other side.